Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Chris from Dark Hour Tech. And really today I wanted to do a video about something that I've been wanting to get going on the channel for a while now. And basically in regards to budget PC builds in general and everything. And one thing that definitely comes down to building a PC is budget. Budget dictates a lot of different things. It can dictate what chip you get, what GPU you get, the money that you have to build your PC really has to be stretched to the furthest amount. And there's a lot of different areas that you can look at to stretch that budget out to maximize the power and performance of your PC that you're building for gaming. So what we're going to actually take a look at is one of those areas that we can actually save some money and possibly, put it towards some extra memory. Probably going to be the most likely aspect of that with, the amount that you're going to be able to save and everything, or other components as well. But before we get into this video though, I want to do a quick word from the sponsor. I want to take a moment just to say thank you to today's sponsor, Beam Eye Tracker. As gamers, you know that many of our games offer the availability of head or eye tracking within the game. It actually creates a whole nother level of interaction with your avatar or character within the game. These systems in general can cost upwards of $175 or even $300 to get the equipment to be able to take advantage of this. Beam Eye Tracker actually offers that at a fraction of the cost. Available on the Steam store, you can get it for $29.99, and it uses a piece of equipment that many of us already have, or is very easy to get a hold of, and that's a simple webcam. By installing Beam Eye Tracker, you actually turn your webcam into a piece of equipment that can give you the benefit of taking advantage of that interaction within the game. Beam Eye Tracker is actually compatible with over 200 games, including Star Citizen and many, many more, including driving sims, flight sims, and FPS shooters. And with a very simple install and setup, Beam Eye Tracker is a very easy way to get into the game on a whole nother level. I actually use Beam Eye Tracker myself, and I love the interaction that it gives me within the game, especially in Star Citizen, and it's a great add-on to any of the games that you enjoy playing. So to check out Beam Eye Tracker, click the link in the description and it'll take you over to the Steam store where you can check that out. And I want to say thank you again to Beam Eye Tracker for sponsoring. And now let's return to the video. Okay, so one of the things about building a PC that goes into play, like I said, is budget. Budget really is the key factor in anything that you're going to build because it's what you have to use to buy the parts that you're going to build your PC with. And one of the areas that you can actually save a little bit of money and maybe funnel it towards something else like memory or your chip or even your GPU is going to be the case. There's a lot of different cases out there. They range wildly in prices from $35 for a basic black box with no ventilation, all the way up to several hundreds of dollars for some of the dual chamber cases and higher end cases that you see there. Now, being able to actually save a little bit of money on that could help you out greatly, like I said. And one of the things I wanted to do was really look at doing a video looking at different cases in which you can possibly save some money and whether you're going to be forfeiting some quality on that or if you're going to actually get something that's worth the amount that you're paying for and maybe a little bit of extra. And actually, the case that we're actually going to take a look at today is going to be the Bluegears pellucid case. Yeah, at least that's how I think it's supposed to be pronounced. I'll throw up the dictionary definition if there is one so that we know for sure. Now, Bluegears actually makes a number of different cases and all that. This is the Matx version of the pellucid. There's actually an ATX version and it is also available. But the Matx size is again another area by going with that size that you can save some money to maximize the performance of your PC and be able to play the games that you want to play. Now, when I originally got this case, it was on sale for $52 on Amazon. And currently right now it's listed at $54 on Amazon. And the ATX version of the case is actually $70. Real quick, we're going to go over the specs of the case as well as the features that it has as far as what it offers. All right, so the case itself is 11 inches wide by 14 inches deep and 15 inches high. Got a tempered front glass panel as well as the tempered side glass panel. It is made of steel and it's an all steel construction. It's got one 3.5 inch drive bay as well as two 2.5 inch drive bays. And then it does offer two USB 3.0s on top as well as a combination microphone and audio jack. And then it does accommodate 220 millimeter fans on the top 220 millimeter fans on the side, 220 millimeters on the bottom, as well as a 120 millimeter fan on the rear. Now, the most important thing to remember is if you do buy this case, it does not come with any fans, so you'll want to actually budget that into your purchase as well. It does also accommodate a 240 millimeter AIO on top and an air cooler height of 157 millimeters. And honestly, it will accommodate up to a 330 millimeter graphics card, which actually makes it very comparable with most 3-fan cards that are out there. It has a total of 4 expansion slots on the rear and then a dust filter that is on the bottom on a slide out tray, as well as the magnetic dust filter on the top for airflow. And overall, the case itself is actually much better than what I anticipated when I originally ordered it. We're going to also take a look at the build that I have in here and some of the things I ran into that were a concern, and some concerns I had that were actually alleviated after I actually got this system put together. So let's go ahead and get this thing turned off, take it apart. We'll take an overhead shot and show you kind of the makeup of it. And this is kind of where we get into one of the areas I have a bit of a gripe on. You want to make sure that you put your hand underneath there. All right, and as you can see, that pops off and drops down. Now, that would be my first gripe, as I was mentioning, is that as you take the thumb screws out, there is no channel or lip down here to hold the glass in on the bottom, and a lot of times it just slips right out and hits the desktop. So you want to be careful if you're taking off that glass. Definitely an improvement that could be made on this case. Just to help retain that glass in there as you're taking out the front glass panel. On the top here, it does have the mesh for the filtration, and that is magnetic and removable for easy cleaning. And then on the front here underneath, we do have the mesh filter for the bottom fans. Now, one thing that I will say with this PC that is another concern of mine is the rear ventilation. The rear ventilation on this comes through the back panel because you have those side mounted fans there. And this actually does not come with a mesh filter. So one thing to be aware of when you get this case, that this is completely open ventilation. Anything that you have as far as pet hair or anything like that is going to get pulled right in through the back of panel here for the power supply unit as well as the intake fans. So what I would definitely recommend, and what I did, was I got a $9 kit right off of Amazon that provides mesh and self-adhesive magnetic strips that you can make up to enough filters for more than 2 cases, and I made my own. So I would definitely recommend, if you're thinking about this case or you're going to go with it, get this to protect your power supply unit as well as those intake fans from pulling in those contaminants. It's going to be definitely well worth the investment for that. So be aware there is no filter on the back panel, which I definitely am not a huge fan of. But overall, it's a minor cost to add on to the cost of the case. All right, so here we are in the back panel. And as you can see, surprisingly, it has tons of room in here to be able to do cable management and everything. You've got your spot here for your power supply unit, which can be up to 160 millimeters in size. Right here, you do have your 3.5-inch drive bay. On the inside is where you would mount that. And then, of course, you have the mounting points for 2.5-inch drives on the back here. One thing to keep in mind is with this screw here, and then one on the center rail, you can actually remove this if you're not going to be using it. I actually decided to leave it in there just to have the separation from the motherboard and the cabling, and it also provides some additional tie-down points for all this cable management. The center rail here actually has a number of different wire tie points. They aren't wide enough to slip Velcro through, but they do work well if you're using zip ties, and provides plenty of space for cable management. Right now, if you consider that this has 7 RGB fans in it, including 2 more on the tower cooler that's in here, and they're all daisy chained. They're not anything like the linking fans or anything like that. So all those cables actually managed up pretty well on the inside here. And this is not a modular power supply. This has actually got all the cabling in it that's attached to the power supply, and that was able to bundle up nice and clean in there, and had no problems with putting the back panel on here, no bulging or anything like that. There's tons of room in here to be able to do your cable management without any issues. Now, one thing to keep in mind is by the website, they do say that any AIO going in here is going to be a 240 millimeter, and it's only going to go on the top. They do not advertise an AIO can fit on the side here. And I would definitely say that that is likely going to be the case based on the way that the internal compartment where the motherboard is and the GPU and all that. You're not going to be able to get a radiator on that portion. Overall durability and construction of the case is actually extremely good. Even when you remove this drive bay from back here, this actually does not affect the stability or the sturdiness of the case. It is not a structural piece. And even taking that out, I found the case was actually extremely stable. And right here is probably going to be the second thing that is a minor gripe. It's really minor in total. The rail system here for the 120 millimeter fans on top. These look like the way that they're spaced out is that you would be able to get a 140 millimeter fan in here. It's actually about 2 millimeters short. I tried to see if I could get one in there just to see if it would accommodate it because it wasn't listed. And it definitely will not fit anything more than 120 millimeters. It would really be nice if these could just be spaced out another millimeter or two to accommodate that larger fan would be really nice, increase the airflow. But overall, come to find out through testing and everything like that, it really did not need it. So the same thing that you see up here is what you're going to see on the bottom as well too. The spacing just will not accommodate a larger fan. All right, so looking at the internals here, one thing that was definitely a bit of a concern for me, and that was when you buy this as an Matx case, because it also accommodates obviously ITX, is that on the Bluegears site, it indicates that you need to order a motherboard extension to be able to accommodate the Matx size. And that extension, as you can see here, does extend out over the fans. And that was really one concern that I had, was whether that extension was going to interfere with airflow and possibly cause some cooling issues. It's very minimal, and definitely verified that I have no cooling issues in this PC itself. And that extension going out over top of the fans is not going to be a problem, but it is also what keeps us from being able to put a 240 millimeter radiator and AIO on that side intake. The other concern I had with the extension was routing the cables to the front. As you can see here with the sleeve cable extensions I did, I had to go up and almost over and around it to get to the 24 pin. And as you can see here on the bottom, it was also an issue with the GPU cable coming in from the side exit from the back chamber into the front. You had to get around that extension. And that really puts it really close to being on top of those bottom fans. Overall, with a little bit of maneuvering and finagling, it didn't become an issue, and I haven't had a problem with the fan blades coming in contact with the cabling, but it was one of the more frustrating things with this case. The back panel, of course, actually just goes right back on, real quick, easy slide in there, and then it does have non-captive thumb screws. It does hold it on there really tight and firmly, and no issues on that. Just make sure you don't lose those thumb screws when you take the back panel off. On the rear side of this, it does have pretty much the standard dual chamber setup. Like I said, 4 expansion slots here. And then, of course, with the Matx board that I have in here, I still have enough room to go ahead and put in a Wi-Fi card into it. And one last note, as I mentioned, I had concerns on the airflow and the cooling capabilities of this, and I will definitely say airflow is not an issue with this, and cooling is not an issue with this. Overall, the case is extremely well put together, and actually the build quality is much higher than I would expect for the $50 price tag. And honestly, I'm looking at another case here probably next week that I'm doing a build in that is actually more expensive than this, and it definitely feels a lot cheaper and flimsier. So for the price point, you're actually getting something very good. You're getting great construction and build, and plenty of space to build your system in here with the cable management and back. And also the fact that the style of it is extremely nice, but it's not all great things. There are some definite things that this thing could do better. One, the top IO does not have USB-C, so you're limited to just those 2 USB 3.0 ports, and then the audio jack. And also, again, like I said, the back panel does not have the microfilter on it, which definitely I think is a much needed item, especially if you're putting microfilters on the top that are removable, as well as the one on the bottom. You could easily make a microfilter to put on the back panel to protect that PSU and the air intake. I think the minimal cost, even if the case itself came to be $5 more in price, would be well worth the value. The other thing, again, is the glass panel on the front. It's a little bit disappointing that they wouldn't go as far as even putting a couple of indents or a small lip on the case down there to help retain the glass in as you're taking it off, because of the fact that it is very easy. And most of the times I try to take this off, I have to put my hand under it to catch the glass because it is going to kick out and try to slip out. So a couple of little points there on the case that could have been better. But overall, for $54, you could definitely take the money that you're saving on this that you would spend on something like an H6 Flow or something like that, which would be a $40 to $50 price difference, and put that towards your memory. You could put it towards your chip. You could also put it towards your GPU. I don't think you can really go wrong with this case as long as you're fine with the Matx size and the fact that it only also comes in black. I will definitely say this is a case I would definitely recommend, and is very well put together. But I really do hope that you guys found this video useful, and look for other videos that I'll be doing about budget builds, budget cases, and all that as I come across them, and also other tech information and unboxings and stuff. But I appreciate you guys being here. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and hopefully we will see you next time.